Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching The Mining Show, brought to you by Blytheway on Core Finance. I'm Charlie Gibson. Now, as any number of charities will tell you at the moment, that a blanket will keep you warm this winter, and that might be particularly so if that blanket is a profitable gold mine in Zimbabwe. That may keep you warm. It might even give you some seasonal good cheer over Christmas as well. If the blanket's in Zimbabwe, you might think it's quite warm already. Speaking of which, joining me now is the Chief Executive Officer, Steve Curtis, and the Chief Operating Officer, Dana Roots, from Caledonia Mining, who indeed have the blanket mine in Zimbabwe. So, gentlemen, very good morning. Welcome to you. Thank you for joining us on Core Finance.
Thank you, Charlie.
As my introduction implied there, I think your mine is in Zimbabwe. We can't ignore the political question, I don't think. Tell us, I suppose, give us your impression of what's going on, how it's affecting you, if at all.
Well, Charlie, it's absolutely business as usual at the mine, and has been for the last week. And I think that's just testament to the nature of the Zimbabweans. They are peace-loving and a cooperative population. And we're delighted that we operate in the country, and we look forward to operating under the new structures that are going to be put in place. We've got 1,300 people on the mine. We're responsible for a much bigger family than that, probably about 4,000 to 5,000 people living in the village. So we see it as a very bright future, and it just creates the atmosphere in which we can build a bigger and more successful business in Zimbabwe. So we're very happy with where we are, and we really do look forward to the future.
Is there any upset at all in the village? Are there any political machinations going on, or is everyone happy, delighted out on the streets?
The reports we're getting from the mine is that it's just absolutely business as usual. As you can imagine, a mining environment is a very disciplined environment, and you've got to keep focused on what you're doing. And the reports from our general manager there is that it's business as usual, and they've got targets to meet, so off they go.
Is there any? This question comes about every so often, but on the question of the currency, we had the Zim dollar. We all know what happened to that. I think I'm a trillionaire, at least I hope I'm a trillionaire in Zimbabwean dollars, maybe more than that. They then dollarized the economy. That went tremendously well, as to my outside observation. Yeah. There are the occasional rumblings that the government is going to, by stealth or not, somehow bring back a Zimbabwean dollar. Do you see any evidence of that?
Well, the one biggest economic issue in the country is a lack of foreign currency. There's a shortage, and the country is trying to operate its own economy without its own currency. I personally believe it was the right thing to dollarize and stabilize the economy out of those hyperinflation periods. But it's a very difficult model to grow an economy in. The Zimbabwean economy needs to grow. It needs to create jobs. It needs to prosper. It needs to get the manufacturing sector going again. So I would guess that one of the most important things that the powers that come into existence will need to put their heads together with some very clever international people and formulate the way forward. I don't think it's sustainable that you can operate with somebody else's currency in your country. And I think all of us as contributors to the economy, and the gold miners are a large contributor to the foreign exchange environment. And, we'll have to continue to work under the conditions that we have and hopefully work towards an improving situation. We need imports, and the access to foreign currency is crucial. The fact that we are investing heavily is testament that you can still do it and operate in a challenging environment. But for an economy that probably needs to grow in double digits, there's going to be some serious economic and fiscal policy changes, I think, that must take place. And I think that's exciting. So we look forward to that.
So would it be a fair summary to say things can only get better?
The economy is unwell, and it needs to grow. There's a high level of unemployment. Zimbabweans want to work, and I think they deserve the opportunity to have a job. So yes, I firmly believe, just looking at the celebrations on TV over the last few days, I think they are looking forward to a brighter future. So yes, I think things will get better.
Dana, if I could turn to you, more on the operational side. You just had your third quarter results. You've also had a resource update, which looked very positive.
Yes, Charlie, we're delighted to say that, our extension of our ore bodies at depth, it's there. We increased our resource by 600,000 ounces. We're sitting at 1.6 million ounces in resource. We announced the deepening or the sinking of a new shaft, central shaft, in 2014. That shaft is now down to 950 meters below surface. It was going to go down to 1,080 meters, adding an extra 2 levels of production, potentially adding an extra 10 years to the life of mine. We now decided to take it down another 2 production levels, which means it will double the life of the 10 and potentially give us 20 years life. We're very excited about that. It's going to cost us extra to deepen a shaft, $10 million, and then to add 2 production levels developed, 6 kilometers of development, another $8 million. So, costing us $18 million, doubling the life, and setting this mine up for the future, which is very exciting to us and to the people on Blanket.
So how many, if you look at it in dollars per meter, how much you're extending the shaft by 200 meters, 250. It's costing you all told $18 million.
10 million for the shaft itself.
And then what, another 8 for the associated development?
For the horizontal development.
And that gives you enough. Now, is it possible to, rather than increase the life of the mine, because if you're doing your discounted cash flows, everything beyond 10 years becomes smallish, can you increase production? I know you're increasing production anyway because you're going up from sort of 60 to 80,000 ounces, but is there scope for that?
The capacity of the new shaft will be 3,000 tons a day at full production. Currently, what we plan, doing 80,000 ounces a year, we will do about 1,800 tons of reef and about 400 to 500 tons of waste development, opening up new areas. So that gives a spare capacity of about 700 to 800 tons a day. So there is potential to increase production if we explore and we find more resources, because we haven't explored below all the known ore bodies above us. And if we find and as expected that all those ore bodies do continue on to depth, for sure there's opportunity to increase the production even more.
So was the rationale for this the fact you said in the resource update you had an extra 600,000 ounces of resource? Was the rationale for the deepening of the shaft the fact that you found that resource, and is it in those 2 production levels that you're now deepening the shaft to access?
Yeah, the fact that below we were going to take it down to 1,080 meters, and below that we saw increase in especially indicated resources, which is a high confidence of resource type, and that gave us enough evidence to go to the board and say, listen, here's the proof. Give us the money to take this shaft deeper and extend the opportunities at Blanket and optimize this mine totally. And luckily the board approved it, and we're glad to announce it.
And so, what sort of reserve? If you've got an extra 600,000 ounces of resource, what percentage of that can you convert to reserve?
Of that, measured and indicated, is about 700,000 ounces. And of that we put into the mine plan that we're going to life of mine plan that we're going to mine, there's just over 400,000 ounces. And as we keep on drilling and firming up and converting the inferred resource to indicated, that will keep on growing.
And so in 15 years' time, we're going to talk about dropping down another 2 production levels.
If you look at a shaft and a winders we bought, and those winders can go down 2,000 meters. I mean, we're only going down to 1,330. This mine is probably, from an infrastructure point of view, set up for the next 50 years or so. Reminding you, this mine has been going for the last 110 years. So long may Blanket live.
And so 1,150, I mean, it sounds like a long way down, but in South African terms, of course, that's a relative scratch on the surface.
Yes.
I presume that one of the things you will also benefit from with the new shaft is an increase in flexibility.
Yes. And previously we were going to target 80,000 ounces, over 2 production levels. Now we have 4. So obviously the flexibility doubled, and it will just make it so much easier to achieve that target.
In the last earlier on in the year, I was going to say in the first 2 quarters of the year, there was this issue, wasn't there, of development versus mined ore, and is that something that the mine has now overcome?
Yes, currently we've got a limitation. The current production shaft can only handle 2,000 tons, of which we're doing currently about 1,600 tons of reef per day and about 400 tons of waste. And that's the limit, and it will take us another 2 years to complete central shaft. Until then, that's the limit as far as tons are concerned, and therefore for the next 2 years you will see sort of similar production levels that we are now. There will be a slight increase in ounces because we are moving into the higher grade Blanket ore body that we just started getting back into. It was mined out above the lowest level in the old mine, like we used to call it. We're building a new mine below the old mine. So after 2 years, then we will start building up and ramping up to 80,000 ounces by the end of 2021.
Excellent. We'll look forward to that very much. Just finally, with that exploration drilling, is it generally true that the grades are higher the deeper you go, or are they lower, or are they about the same?
I would say it's actually per ore body. We've got higher grade ore bodies, like the Blanket ore body is our highest grade ore body, and then it varies between our next biggest ore body is ourselves. And then our main also a big ore body, but a lower grade, around about 3. And then you go to the extreme on the other side, we have Eroica that varies anything between 5 and 9 gram a ton. And that one specifically looks like it's increasing in grade as we're going deeper.
So so there is a possibility that this is, if you like, the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, well, what we found, the more we drill, the more we find. So it's actually, from an exploration point of view, it's very exciting, and we're very optimistic about even above, in the old mine, above our lowest level, as we start having the capacity to develop more there, and the pressure move towards central shaft as far as production is concerned. And we have the capacity to develop drill cubbies and so on, that we will even find more duplicate reefs above the lowest level of the current mine.
We will look forward to it, and I hope you come back and tell us all about it when you do. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. That was Dana Roots, the Chief Operating Officer of Caledonia, and also Steve Curtis, the Chief Executive Officer of Caledonia. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for with me, Charlie Gibson, on The Mining Show, brought to you by Blytheway on Core Finance. Stay with us, though, and we'll be back in a week's time with more excellent investment ideas, more ideas to keep you warm over the winter and the Christmas months. As I say, that's all we've got time for. In the meanwhile, you have a very capital day.